An honor. It is an honor for me at this time to introduce to you my friend, our friend, Colleen Dodge. Take it away, Colleen. We're so glad you're here.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, my name's Colleen Dodge. My Menominee name is Watkene, which means White Eagle Woman. And from the Menominee Indian Reservation, our little town is called Neopit. I know it's a little hard. Some of these towns have different names. But yeah, I grew up in Pennsylvania, but then I came home and I was adopted out. I re-met my family. And 1980, I graduated Thursday. I got on a Greyhound bus Friday, and I was home meeting my family on Saturday. So I got to re-meet my birth family. And I went to school in 1981. 1983, I graduated from the Institute of American Arts. I had to look it up. Where's Santa Fe, New Mexico?
Colleen, Fred.
So yeah. So yeah, I've been kind of busy with a few things here and there. And lately, let's see, I'm trying to think what all we want to talk about, because I've been active with Wisconsin Conservation Voters. I was with Native Vote. We started it. I got contacted and I worked with Matt Dannenberg, and we did the local area, Menominee, Mole Lake, Oneida, Stockbridge Indian Reservations, Menominee Indian Reservations. And that was the beginning of a Native Vote in Wisconsin. And then from there, we expanded 2014. We had developed more areas. We got to cover all we got people involved on the reservations, and we had leaders in each area. And then they hired people from their area. So it grew. So we have 11 different tribes within the state of Wisconsin. And that was a learning curve there too, because we didn't realize that Ho-Chunk has areas, La Crosse, Madison, Wisconsin Dells, and people are kind of spread out, rather than like our reservation is just, covered in this area here. So we had one guy says, oh, okay, send him out, and he found out it was all over. So we need more people. So we had to regroup and figure out how we're gonna, organize, because I had about, I think, 8 to 10 people that I worked with in my area, the Northeast Wisconsin. So we finished our area, then they did a great job. So they were able to go out and cover other areas, and a bunch of people helped this guy because, he had these different areas to cover. So then we'd regroup once in a while and get together and have our little group meetings with each other, and find out what's working, who needed help. And a lot of them were possibly somebody had ducks in their yard and they're running around, they're trying to get to the houses, and they're like, oh no, like what do we do, the person's running off to their car. So there were some little areas like that, or maybe somebody had wild, some dogs that were kind of noisy, so we had to deal with that. A lot of learning curves as we were going along, but we did door to door. And what we had done was one of the ladies came up with a really cool design, and a Native American design, and she put a slogan. It's called Powwow the Vote. So then we made signs, yard signs, and they were distributed to all the tribes. And people were asking for them. They wanted them. They're, oh, wow, that's cool. Cool design. And it says Powwow the Vote. And they were up all over all the reservations. And pretty soon they liked them so much, they started disappearing. People were stealing them to keep them. And but part of it too was doing postcards. So when we went door to door, we had a postcard and had them put their address on it. And we took their address, but they took the postcard and mailed it back to us when they voted. And then we received the postcards, and we marked down, we had all the addresses listed and everything. So that was their contribution, and they're like, wow, this is cool, and because they were part of something bigger. So that made them feel good. So that's what I kind of liked about that, because it was a more personal touch. And then let me think. I had done 2012, 2014, and then I hadn't done it for a while. Then 2019, I was asked to be on Wisconsin Conservation Voices. It's with the Wisconsin Conservation Voters, um, another division of theirs under Voices. So I am on their board as a board member. And then we have another lady that's doing a dynamic job, far beyond what we had started. So she's doing an excellent job with the Native Vote, and I'm on and as a board member. So I've been on that since 2019. So I'm just trying to think of what all too, because there's like I have some other areas that I'm working with also. I'm also on a board for the Coalition to Save the Menominee River, which they wanted to build a sulfide mine in that area. We, as a tribe and local people from that area, have run this organization, and I was asked this year to be on as one of their board members. So we just got done last weekend. We went and did a walk. There's Aquila, they're out. They're out of the they were trying to get in there and get our minerals, our gold, and everything that's in there, all the minerals. And then now GoRo is a company that they're kind of going bankrupt now, and they're getting out of the area too. And this road that we walked on is a public access road, but it's right in the middle of where they want to mine. So with our group, the Coalition to Save the Menominee River, and our tribe as members, they were both as members because they don't want to get in any trouble. So so what we had done was organized a walk. So we did a walk last week. There's an elder and his son. I think the son is about in his 70s, and the dad is like 95. And he was concerned because the dad lives like a quarter of a mile from this road. And they've been trying to fight this for a long time, and he wanted to make sure that his dad knew this was going to be followed through. So with that in mind, we all met at their house and walked up a quarter mile to this public access road. But the thing was, the road is gated, and GoRo or Aquila had put the gate there, which their big contention is with this gate. If we were to cross it or step on their property, we may be arrested. So we had an elder lady in a wheelchair show up. We had the son and the 95-year-old dad show up beforehand and talk to the police and told them what we were going to do. It's a peaceful walk, that we're not trying to cause any trouble. We won't go on their land. We're just going to stay on the public access road. So that's what we did last week. And we had people coming in from Madison, Milwaukee, Minneapolis, Iron River, all over the place. Probably about 200 people walking on our walk. So we did the walk, and I think it was about 2 miles. I don't know. It was quite a long walk in the woods. And we had gone over the gate, under the gate, but we didn't go on their property. So we got to the end. There was a police car, but they said they were just going to be there as peacekeepers. Nothing happened. Nobody got arrested. So we accomplished what we started out to show. Then we came back and had a feast, but we had started off too originally. Oh, okay, everybody disappeared. Okay, I don't know what happened there. Okay, I'm still here. Okay, after that we had a feast. Well, no, start in the beginning. We had done a traditional water ceremony where the women, they come in, and it's kind of a ceremonial kind of thing to keep things grounded, because that's our whole, like, women, we're the life bearers because we bear children, and we have connection with Mother Earth, and our main thing is to save the water, and we're also water protectors. So we had done a water ceremony beforehand to get everything started, everything in a good way, and that started off. And then we had, my nephew came in. He's a hand drummer, so he came in and he led the group. And then also, as water protectors, as women, the women carry a bucket of water. So all the way to into the walk, there's a hand drummer, and the women only carry the water. So I got to carry the water for a little while. And then we walked up about a mile, and then we had poured the water on a big tree that was nearby, and came back and had our feast. And everybody, we had a lady prepare the feast, and then some other people had donated, did a potluck. They donated food. So we had a big feast afterwards. Trying to think of what else there is. That's about all I have to say. I'm trying to think of anything else if anybody has questions.
Thank you so much, Colleen. I really appreciate you sharing everything that you're doing. And I think it's critically important too that we understand our Native American siblings and how you guys live and things that you do. Especially now that we're getting ready for GOTV 2024. Sometimes I think we ask people to participate in GOTV 24, but we don't take enough time, from my perspective, to get to know the people and what they're doing. You know, it's almost like we think you're not doing anything at all, but it's pretty obvious based on what you're saying. You guys are incredibly busy and you work so well together and you already have a plan. And it looks like to me, maybe is it what you need is like for us just to know this. And if there's any way we can help, we'll certainly do that. So I will just go in and open the floor now then for questions. And if you guys would raise your hand, if you can use the reactions to raise your hand if you have a question, that would be awesome. Okay, John, I see yours is up. And then Casey.
Thank you, Colleen. Do you find that your tribal town coordinates well with, call it the Anglos, for want of another term, non-tribal people? Or was there barriers that you had to break down between the two sides before you got comfortable doing these protests and activist activity together?
Well, with the voting, that's different from like the water walk. The voting on our reservation, we mainly cover our reservation, which is on the Menominee Indian Reservation. I have worked with Wisconsin Conservation Voters, and we go out beyond with that organization to different areas also. And some of them aren't just the tribes, are like near towns and stuff like that, that like, you know, with the Ho Chunk, like I was saying, there may be some in Madison or whatever, but we just get the word out, social media and the addresses, and you know, send them information with the Wisconsin Conservation Voters. We have more people now that are working with the tribes with the Wisconsin Conservation Vote that have more contact than like before, like say 2010, 2011, because 2012 was a big push then. So yeah, there's a lot of coverage.
And not any confrontation within the group to start, or was it comfortable, in other words, within that diverse group to work on things together? Did you find it comfortable?
Yeah, it was fine. Yeah, because we were just, you know, like our group was all Native, and the people we were contacting were Native. But the only problem I had was working in Oneida, because, you know, some places they call checkerboard, and some areas, but then again, some are Republican. And that's the only place I really had a problem with, because some of the Republicans, you know, because, you know, they goes, you know, stems back to like we're covered by Democratic ideology. And so they didn't want any information in their mailbox, on their door. And they would stand right at the end of their driveway to make sure that we don't come in and put any information on their property. And I was kind of surprised, you know, I was like, wow. But, you know, like we had training beforehand too for various incidences. We did practice door knocking, which was fun, because at first you're kind of nervous, you know, like our trainer had asked the person, say it's at the door. Okay, they talked separately and said, okay, well, say this or that to them. and then you're just coming up to their door, you know, like maybe you don't like similar, like you don't want to have any information there. And that was the practice one. So you would go up, knock, 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 you know, being all innocent, knock, 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 you know, and I'm here with Native Vote, and then they come in and, you know, get off my property. I don't want you here, you know. So what do? You know, like, oh, you know, so you have to be polite, you know, that's part of the training is, you know, okay, I understand, you know, that's fine. We're good. So then you just move on to another house. So that really was really helpful to have the practice door knocking and what would we do? And say if they do call the police, which I had some other political things that we had done, not just with Native Vote, but some other things too, where the police were called on us. My brother and I were going around in Green Bay, Ashwaubenon area, and my brother came over and he's like, that guy said he's going to call the police on us. I said, well, okay. You know, I stood with him. I said, all right, because we're okay to do this here. We're on, you know, right now we're on public property, we're on the sidewalk, and they can come talk to us and we'll give them our boss's name, phone number, and they can deal with it. You know, don't get all shook up and, you know, anything. It's we're okay to do this.
Okay, Casey. You're muted, Casey.
Oh, better?
Yeah, can hear you now.
You sort of answered part of my question, but first of all, just a comment. I love the part about having them send the postcard back after they voted, because I think so much of our efforts, we're talking to people and yeah, I'm going to vote, but there's not that like accountability piece. And I think it's so powerful, that thing about send us the postcard back and then feeling about there's something, you know, in something bigger, and also just knowing you're waiting to hear from them. I just think that's so smart. I love that. But what I was wondering is, with the door-to-door campaign and the postcards, that whole thing, were you, I think you sort of answered this, but were you just trying to get them to vote, or were you suggesting how they vote? It
No,
sounds like
it
with
wasn't how- it
conservation
was-
voters, you were suggesting how, but
Well, it was more or less the initiative to get people to vote, because like in that was 2014, and so it was a really big push to get people to vote. That year was the highest vote. We had 98% on our reservation that voted because of our efforts. Yeah.
wow, that's incredible. And I think with a lot of the campaigns I've worked on, that's kind of it's like, if more people vote, we're going to win. You know what I mean? It's just sort of about turnout, but I just wondered about that from the different perspectives you were working on. Thank you for telling us about it.
Thank you, Casey and John, for your questions. Are there other questions from anyone else related to her topic?
98% of the people voting is a pretty significant figure. Do you feel you still need to be get out the vote, or are you now trying to influence how people are voting versus just voting? Or is there some accepted reality that people vote a certain way in the Native community?
I guess it's just mainly the idea to vote, you know, because like I was saying, like with some tribes, the ones we ran into in Oneida that were Republicans. So, but that's fine, you know, as long as they're voting. That was our main thing, was to get people to vote.
Okay.
And we still do. Yeah, we have a big initiative too, also, as you know, with the Native Vote. It's gotten more active since then too, so, which is nice.
So you have big plans for the coming election year? This whole new year is going to be a big deal for election.
Yes, we have also, we have a lot of get out the vote within some organizations. Like I said, I had been with the Native Organizers Alliance, and that's a national organization. So they do the similar thing, and they also do a survey which goes to everybody, emails, and just a general one kind of, and then to touch base with people. But then as they go along, then they have more, it's the same thing, get out the vote. It's just either way, it doesn't, they don't push either side, you know, because, you know, everybody has their choice. But like, I think a lot of, you know, the probably the base is probably Democratic, but you know, we're not pushing either any agenda or any either side,
Yeah.
any political side, you know, individual, like local people that are Democratic or Republican. We don't pick out a person either. It's just kind of, you know, general, just so you vote.
Do you do registration for voting as well then as part of that process?
Yes, I've been trained in that in 2012, and we had at that time, I think 4 people we had a small group, but at the time we had 4 people that were able to get people to register, because you have to go through the clerk of court and go through all that to get them so they can vote.
Mhm.
So yeah, we also do that.
So Colleen, could you expound a little bit more on your postcarding strategy? I really like that. I'm with Casey on that one, but I wonder if it's something that could be we could use in our area.
Mhm.
Could you just talk a little bit more? You have a blank postcard. Is it stamped already, or do they have to provide the stamps themselves?
At the time, it was really a nice postcard that was printed up with Powell the Vote, that same yard sign, the front was. So they were all excited to have that, you know, and, you know, kind of gave them like this connection to what we're doing. So that's what they felt good about. And I think we had our stamp return address stamped on it. So then it came to us, and so they could just, I can't remember if we pre-stamped them too. We might have, you know, as long as they send it to us, you know, so that way it wouldn't cost them. And
Was
then
there,
you know, they just, yeah.
was there any follow-up with them after you received their postcards?
Trying
Had
to
they
think.
already voted at that time? And
They had voted by then. Yeah, they would vote and then send the card. And so we collected the cards, and then those, we had another couple of employees too that had, well, they're part of the group, but they were like working with our native vote group. They would take them and computerize everything, their addresses and everything, and get that all. I'm not computer literate. They had everything set up. They knew how to do it. And they were just like whizzing through. We'd have like 200 of them for the weekend, and they would just go ahead and, you know, get them all computerized.
so this might be in conjunction with what Bob was saying too. So let's say the election year is coming up now. You have that information already. Will you use that information to remind them again about the election in November?
I'm not sure if they're doing that this year though, because that was 2014, and now, like with I'm not sure if they are, because the native vote is under another lady, Denise Sweet, and I think she has new people in our area, but I think they're doing more or less registering people, and they call it tabling at different events. We have a farmers market and some other things at areas that they can go to. That's just locally, but other areas too, they have maybe at powwows, because there's powwows throughout the year. So they'll have a table with their native vote, the conservation voters. They had a slogan going last time. It was for the 7th generation. I think it was, you'll see big posters, they'll hold up signs, and, you know, to promote voting. And they'll say, I vote for the 7th generation. Because that's part of our belief also. We look ahead to protect our future relatives, so that we keep them in mind also.
Yeah, I really like that. I'm looking at Casey because Casey within our group, I call her Miss Passionate, get out the vote kind of person. Yeah, her philosophy is if you don't vote, nothing else is going to happen, you know, and that's true.
Yeah.
So I really
Yeah.
appreciate everything you're sharing here.
Okay.
Yeah. So I see that Suzanne, do you have a question? Susan? Okay. Are there any other questions related to her topic of discussion today?
I have one more kind of question for Colleen. One is about kind of, well, first of all, is the conservation voters and the native voter group separate, or are they kind of merged, or is it all one? And are you still working with which one or both? Or?
Yeah, I'm on the Wisconsin Conservation Voices. It's under Conservation Voters. It's another, just a little part of it. But under the Conservation Voters, it's the Native Vote, which Denise Sweet, she's the head of, who she has hired maybe a couple workers. They'll have like a local worker and then a regional worker in the areas like Northwest, Southwest, all around the
Like
state.
an umbrella.
Yeah, so they're all in connection with each other, so it's still going. I mean, they're very active. I think we have a new guy, this Mike Fish, he's near here on our reservation, and so I think there's ones in probably each reservation, which I said there's 11, and so they probably hired like 11 of them to do the local reservations where they're from. But then we have regional, Northwest, that another person may have something like, say, in Green Bay, even though Oneida's kind of mixed with them, but they'll work together at different events. Or if they hear of something going on, they'll get hold of them and say, hey, come table over here, and or another, within the city, because people live, all over the place. But,
Yeah.
Milwaukee is full of a variety of different tribes and stuff. So yeah,
Yeah.
they have a big
But
area in Milwaukee, Madison.
I don't know that it's such a thing in Wisconsin, but some of the more northern states, I remember hearing a lot about specific kinds of voter suppression stuff that was going on. And because the addresses were different and IDs were different and all that stuff, I just wonder if you had come across any of that, and if so, any strategies to share. But I don't know if that was.
Oh, like with mapping?
What's that?
With mapping?
Yeah, and like some of the states where you had to have
I
a
worked
certain
with
kind of address that, didn't exist or something.
Yeah, I had gone to I forget what year this was. I had gone with Denise Sweet. We had gone out to the rural Utah initiative, whatever they were doing out there. It's like with the Navajos. And we had Navajo, the president, and some of the people from there. And it was similar to what you're talking about. They had areas, they came in and talked about how they had done a few things, because like similar to ours, they had people go out and pick people up to come vote. And part of the initiative was to design posters, flyers at the voting sites, because some of these elders didn't speak English. They didn't know. So they had taken and made signs that said, about voting, everything that was in English, what would be at the areas, to, explaining to them in Navajo what they need to do when they get there to vote. But then again, the worker would be speaking Navajo to them too, and explaining as they went, driving a lot of times 100 miles to a voting site. And that was part of the problem there too, because where they live is out in the country, out, by these monuments, that have no address. So what they had done was taken a longitude, latitude, and a marker spot where their house was. Somehow they had been able to do that and take it and use it as their address. So, this was something I learned while I was out there, at this conference. And then, like I said, they would have to drive them 100 miles or pick up maybe a few people on the way to bring them, and explaining to them what the voting is, what it's about. And, of course, they knew there was president, stuff like that. But I mean, like, what the initiative, what they're doing, and explaining to them on the way. So that, I thought that was really good that they put it in Navajo, so that our elders could read those, that they would
Amazing.
know what was happening.
Amazing, the obstacles that were put up and gotten by, whatever the right word for that is.
Yeah. So I know that's been going on. I know some areas too, they wanted to know was if our area should be changed. Well, our vote, even though it's 98% voting, the voting booth was in the sheriff's office. But then we have people who are just out of prison, they were kind of nervous to come to vote or whatever. But it explained to them they're not going to, take you in, or maybe they're wanted or whatever, but, we got them, to vote. They were able to show up, they're not going to arrest you. They're not going to take you in. So that was another thing that we had to think about. And, I didn't even think of it, but as we were going around to our local rural sites to let people know what we were doing, that was kind of another thing along with the postcards, explaining to them. And I ran into, and I was surprised, the mother, the father, and the son were all, they had all gotten out of prison, and they didn't know if they could vote. But it depends on what kind of warrant you had or whatever it was that was, why you were in prison. If it's not, something major, that you are still able to vote. So there's a lot of things we learned along the way. Oh, what was the other thing I was going to mention about the vote? They wanted to know if, that was part of it, was if we should move the voting site, which it moved from the sheriff's office over to the tribal courts. And we still run into that if people are nervous to show up by, by police, the ones that are wanted or whatever, but they still vote. It's like we let them know that you're not going to be taken in right away. It's just we want to have you vote.
So is the sheriff from the reservation or from another location?
It's right across from tribal courts. They're all kind of in a circle area. There's the sheriff, the courts, the social worker, and the clinic are all in the same area. But that's a lot of questions on like various reservations where they should have the voting, where people should vote. Maybe they might have like a utility office or something where it might be more general, that people might be more comfortable to go vote.
Are there other questions related to her topic? Well, Colin, I really appreciate your history. This has been a history lesson for me because everything you talked about, I knew absolutely nothing about that.
Oh, okay.
Everything has been like what you read in the news or whatever, and that doesn't give it's not adequate for what you guys are doing on the reservation and what you have to go through to even vote. Just the idea that people are apprehensive to go vote.
Mm-hmm.
It resonates with me that you still walk through that process and you were successful.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's huge and very encouraging. When we say we have people in our groups perhaps that don't want to go vote because something much smaller than what you're talking about. Mm-hmm. So it's encouraging now. I'm motivated to say, you know what, I think your vote is critically important and let's do it. Mm-hmm. Not asking, do you want to go? Let's do it. Let's go. I'll take you, let's get registered. Yeah. So it's so important. I so admire everything that you shared with us and what you're doing for people. And based on what I'm hearing, you're unrelenting. You're not stopping.
No.
There's no time to stop, right?
No, there's we have a lot of work to do yet.
Yeah. So I want to say thank you to Dolores for coming. Dolores, do you want to have a comment on what Colleen has talked about today?
Just want to say thank you for everything that she has shared with us. It's so informative and given us so many ideas on what we need to do to register voters.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah.
And Susan, I know that you're involved too. Would you like to have a word? You're involved in, you've been around for a long time. I'll just say that. And I'm encouraged by you too.
I'm part of the Downsboro Township Democratic Organization, which I'm in their office right now. So we're always trying to get out the vote and have new ideas. So sorry, I came a little bit late, but it was very informative. Appreciate it. Every idea, we just keep helping each other to create new ideas and new ways to get people out. And I want to get 98% of the vote in our township. Good luck with that, right?
Yeah, all the best for sure.
Exactly.
What about you, Anne? Any comments?
I'm so impressed to hear what they are doing down there, because we don't get to hear that so much, Colleen. I know
Oh.
that my friend Kirsten Swan, she used to make a lot of warm clothes for children, and she was transporting them to the conservative. So she's the one who used to tell me the stories about what's happening down there. So I really appreciate this time with you today.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. Any last words from Bob or John?
Not for me, just
I-
glad to be here and glad to hear the talk.
I appreciate you coming, Colleen, and sharing your story with us. It's
Oh.
encouraging to hear people organizing the way you have in your own community. It's very, very good to hear. Thank you.
Okay.
I guess I'm just interested to see also what everybody else does. You know, I mean, like, what do you do or what's happening where you're at? You know, part of it too. It's because there's so much, like I said, with these different organizations, you know, nationwide with the Native Organizers Alliance, just with our Wisconsin Conservation Voters, our tribes, and so it's kind of a national thing too. With the Conservation Voters, is the whole nation too. There's other states involved in the conservation voters. And so
Okay.
I was, you know, really, I was loving this MoveOn. I was like, man, this is so nice to be around with like-minded people. I was just like a, you know, I felt really good.
Absolutely. I think we can respond to your question earlier though about you want to hear about some things that we do as
Yeah.
far as GOTV is concerned. One of the things that we do, I'm an individual leader where I live, and one of the things that we have done extensively every single time we have an election, whether it's a midterm or a general election, where we do a lot of postcarding, but it's a little bit different from what you expressed, but I like your idea a lot. Ours are basically, we get a script from a certain postcard company, and we just we write letters to certain voters, and we are provided the addresses for those particular people, and they're mainly in critical vote states. Sometimes we wrote a lot to Wisconsin. I think it was last year, a lot of postcarding. We do vote for it letters to Wisconsin and other critical states like Arizona, Texas, North Carolina. It depends on what the states are that we feel like we can perhaps win this year and next year in the general election. So we do a lot of that. We do a lot of phone banking, and what we try to do is decide, you know, which lane do we belong in, because not everyone is going to write postcards. Not everyone is going to canvass or phone bank or whatever. So whatever your area of strength is for GOTV, we like for people to work in those areas, even though sometimes we cross the line. You know, mine is not canvassing, but I will canvass. You know, John is the canvasser. And I think Bob will write postcards and canvas or whatever. We're all on the same indivisible team. And so it just depends. And whatever we do, it's across the nation that we're all doing the same thing, because there's basically 5 areas of GOTV. And so people decide what they want to do for GOTV. But we try to do as much as possible. And we sometimes we do our GOTV with around a dinner. You know, like last year, I think it was, there was a member of our group who will not attend Zoom meetings, but she's the best host ever. You know, and we don't just have like snacks, we have food. So everybody has their lane, and it's just fun to get together and celebrate and knowing that we're making a difference in society. So yeah, we do those kind of things. So
Yeah.
we have about 10 minutes. And so I don't want to keep you guys over time. Okay, Susan, I'm sorry, go on.
No, that's okay. I just wanted to add something to what you're saying, because actually I right now I work for postcards to swing states. And, you know, that is the one, you know, that, you know, we send to states that we think that we can make a difference in the voting, and it's to get out the, you know, the voting. Oh, I got a dog coming in. But anyway, just a second. But anyway, it's the thing that we find about postcards, because we always, when the programs are out there, we try to bring them into this office, because some people who don't want to knock doors or whatever, it's a great way to start engaging people and getting people in a room. So I want to just jump back and say, you're absolutely right. So I got to go say hello to a dog now. So
Okay, thank you so much, Susan.
thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely, appreciate you joining.
Always good to see you.
You too, thanks. Okay, so Colleen, I just want to say thank you once again for joining us. Your time, your presentation was incredible, but I knew it was going to be wonderful because that's just who you are from the time that I start talking with you up to this very moment. You have just been so inspiring, so very motivational, and I look forward to working with you closely and MoveOn. You
Okay,
know,
great.
yeah, we're just getting started. The kickoff is going to be soon. You'll hear all about that. But we're just getting started. So I appreciate keeping in close contact with you too, and just your time is just amazing and precious. So thank you so much. Would
Okay,
you like
thank
to
you.
have
Yeah.
would you like to have the last word, please?
Oh, sorry. I've had a cold last couple days. The kids, my grandkids had come home with a cold, and of course I had to catch it. So sorry to sound so rough here, but
Oh, that's okay.
yeah. Good boy. There's a lot of things going on. Involved with a lot of different things. Like I was saying on our as far as like conservation voices and coalition, and also with with MMIW. I think we had done that in one of the workshops. We had talked about that with the mining issues and stuff going across. I also belong to the Western Mining Action Network, and it's an international group. And that's part of one of the topics too that we cover is missing and murdered Indigenous women who my sister-in-law went missing, or she got murdered down in Oklahoma, and her husband was politically involved, and so they covered it up. He got like a year in jail. That was it. And then we have people from here that are currently missing right now. We have a few male. We have my niece's cousin got murdered and was found, and we had to at least she was found. We have another one that some are just not missing. We just found somebody nearby in the woods that was a skull, so they have to find out who it was. Like I said, there's a lot of different issues I'm involved with, and then the reason we keep my grandkids is because my daughter had died of an opioid or a drug overdose last December 22nd, just before New Year's. That week we bought a bunch of fireworks, not knowing anything was going to happen, waiting for New Year's to have our New Year's celebration. So we put that off and saved it for 4th of July. We had the kids do a 4th of July. So there's a lot of different topics that I've been involved with within our community. So now we have a community fire going downtown in Kashina, which is another town nearby, on our reservation for to bring awareness about the opioid epidemic, with the fentanyl and meth and stuff like that going on. So we're trying to get rid of that in our community. But it's all over United States. We had done a bust. I was with a group, Boots on the Ground Grandmas, that this one of the ladies said that people were coming to her to ask her, can you help me? I want to get off this stuff. And she said, it's too much for me. Can I get some help? So we got together, some of the grandmas got together and started talking, and we brought in the police. We had the drug task force come in and talk to the community, started community events. And so they were all talking about that, and they're still involved with a lot of the drug busts that are happening now. And we've lost, I think they said like 12 people, just 12 people this year on our reservation from drug overdoses. So it's a huge, loss to our community. Then, of course, like now with us, we have the grandchildren that, the kids suffer. So there's a lot of different issues out there that, overall that people have to deal with these various things happening. So like I said, I'm involved with, the politics, but then a lot of the down home basic things that we need to work on.
Yes. Thank you so much for sharing your story and all your GOTV information and just your involvement. Really, really appreciate you. Care deeply about what you're doing and the care you're giving for your grandchildren. So I so admire you. So thank you so much for your time.
Okay, thank you. Thank you all for listening.